Hi, my name is Patricia McClellan Terrell, and I write under the pen name P.M. Terrell. My first book was published back in 1984, and like any author who has been around for over 30 years, I've had a negative review or two, and I've also had things printed about me that were entirely inaccurate. This presentation will tell you how to respond to negative reviews and negative comments so you'll be prepared when it happens to you. Authors are wonderful with self-delusion. Every author thinks that their book is always the best, that they will be the only author that will never receive any negative reviews but only positive, glowing, warm reviews, and they think that the media will never get the facts wrong. But the reality is that no matter how good your book is, it is not going to appeal to every reader or every reviewer. You will receive a bad or at least a questionable review at least once during your career. The media will get the facts wrong, and you cannot control what others say about you or your book, but you can control how you will respond. The biggest mistake that an author can make when you receive a negative review or inaccurate information is to become emotional. Don't engage in that knee-jerk reaction. It's so easy to fire off an email and hit send or post something on social media, but if you fire back without thinking it through and without thinking through the consequences, it could end up hurting you a lot worse. The best thing you can do is to have a plan. Plan now before you get that first negative review or before you see inaccuracies about you. Planning allows you to transcend the moment. It allows you to minimize your stress. It allows you to determine the very best way to respond, or even if you do respond. And it prevents you from doing something that you're going to regret later. Now in just a moment I'm going to be giving you a flow chart that you can print out and use, so in the event of a negative review or inaccurate information you can simply go down through this checklist. But for now we're going to take a look at these questions. The first thing you want to do is sit back, take a deep breath, relax, and ask yourself, did the reviewer state his or her opinion only, not the facts, but just their opinion? If that is the case, do not respond, no matter how much you want to. Second, did the reviewer state facts that were incorrect, but they are outside the scope of your book? Again, do not respond, no matter how badly you may want to correct them. And third, did the reviewer state facts that were incorrect and they were within your book's content? In that case, you have 3 more questions to ask. What is the damage caused if you do not respond? If there's no damage caused, don't respond. Second, can the damage be contained if you do respond? Then I'm going to give you a way to respond here in a moment. And if you do not respond, will the damage increase? If the damage will increase, you definitely do want to respond, but respond unemotionally. Okay, so let's revisit that first question. Did the reviewer state his or her opinion only? No matter how bad you think the review is, call up Amazon.com. Look up any New York Times best-selling author's books, any one of them, and click through to their negative reviews. It's easy to do because Amazon allows you to choose 1 to 5-star reviews. What does it say? Does it say more about the book, about the author, or does it say more about the reviewer? I once had a negative review on my book Ricochet, where the reviewer said that they were forced to read it in school by their teacher and that she would never have read it otherwise. The review was filled with inaccuracies and also a lot of typographical errors. I did not respond because I knew that the review was going to say more about the reviewer than about me or my book. What you can do, though, to counter a negative review, never respond directly, but encourage those who enjoyed your book to post a positive review. The positives should outweigh the negative, and then the negative will eventually be buried. In this second example, the question is, did the reviewer state facts that were incorrect, but they were outside the scope of your book? Okay, so no matter how much you want to respond and set the record straight, it is not your job to educate someone outside of the scope of your book. What you can do again is engage others who enjoyed your book to write a positive review. Okay, with this next question, things get a little bit more involved. And this actually happened to me with my book, Songbirds Are Free. The reviewer stated facts that were incorrect about my book's content, and her comment was that she did not believe that my ancestor had gone through all the experiences in my book, Songbirds Are Free, because she said that in 1780 people were not able to write, so there could have been no written record. Aside from the fact that the Bible was written about 2,000 years earlier, I knew that this was incorrect information and that my ancestor actually could write, and she did write it down. But I had to stop and ask myself these questions. What was the damage caused if I did not respond? Well, if I didn't respond, will others' reviews offset this one? Another thing that I had to consider is the lifespan of the review. This was written in a newspaper, and fortunately it was not online forever. It was kind of a flash in the pan. If the lifespan is short, don't respond. It'll soon be buried. If it's going to be online forever, then yes, you do want to consider whether or not you want to respond. Can the damage be contained if you do respond? Well, if that's the case, then respond only with the facts. Never respond emotionally, no matter what. Refer to exact pages or to outside resource material. Look up a few resources online and use those links or cite those third-party resources. You also want to ask yourself, if you do not respond, will the damage increase? Well, obviously you don't want the damage to be increasing. So this is the only time when a response is going to be absolutely necessary. Stay on point. Don't throw everything into the conversation, because the more you stay in there, the more muddled it gets and the more they will have to respond to as well. Refer to exact pages in your book if they quoted something incorrectly, or to outside resource materials. And I always thank the reviewer as well. Even though it seems kind of odd to do so, it sets the stage that I am going to be polite even if they are not. Okay, so here we have a bad review response chart, and I will have a link so that you can print this out and keep it handy. In the upper left corner, you want to ask yourself, is this the reviewer's opinion? If it's yes, do not respond and seek positive reviews to offset the negative one. If it is not the reviewer's opinion, is it outside the book's scope? If the answer is yes, again, do not respond and seek positive reviews. If the answer is no, then did the reviewer say something incorrect about the book? If they did not, let it go. If they did, ask yourself, is it damaging? If it's not damaging, again, let it go. If it is damaging, then will your response make it worse? If it makes it worse, don't respond. If you can fix the problem, or if it will not make it worse, then respond with logic and facts and never emotion. I've been focusing on reviews up to this point, but sometimes things can be written about you that are not really a review, but they reflect on you or your book. And this actually happened to me. When I had my first suspense thriller published, Kickback, a overzealous reporter put in the newspaper that I had single-handedly brought down the mafia. Well, this obviously was not true, and I was panic-stricken because I was afraid that the mafia would read this and suddenly I would be on someone's hit list when I was never on it before. My father was with the FBI, so I called him and I asked him, what should I do? And he said that he was a J. Edgar Hoover agent, and J. Edgar Hoover always said, never correct the press. The press always has the last word, always. And if you get on their wrong side, then it's just going to make everything much worse, especially if you try to correct them in public. So what I chose to do is simply let it go. Yes, the story was big for a little while, but let's face it, there's always a crisis or there's always a controversy every single day in the news. So my little controversy was a flash in the pan and it was soon forgotten. An argument always takes two people, and an argument can very quickly accelerate beyond your control. Remember that when you're responding, especially on social media, the whole thing can be shared or retweeted, and you won't have any control over where it goes or how long it stays there. So you want to make sure that you never argue in public. When you're working with social media especially, or in a forum where other people have access, the conversation might not be a dialogue just between you and the reporter or the reviewer. You could end up with a trialogue. A trialogue includes other people in your social stratosphere or other people who have access to that forum or that page. Most people will read and not respond. So when you respond in public, you're actually responding to everybody in the loop. Keep that in mind whenever you're responding on social media. So if there are two things that you take away from this today, the first one is never ever respond emotionally. Always respond with the facts. And second, use the chart that's provided in this presentation so that you'll be prepared. That way, when you see something negative or something that could negatively impact you or your book, you won't have that knee-jerk reaction. You'll know that you have a plan, and you can simply go right down the chart and respond accordingly. So this has been how to respond to negative reviews or negative comments. And my name again is Patricia McClellan Terrell. I write under the pen name PM Terrell, and you can visit me at the websites listed here. And thank you for listening today.